Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to talk about the official trailer that's come out for Season 3 of Titans. If you haven't seen it already, I'll include a link to it in the description down below. But obviously giving us more context with everything from the teaser trailer. Obviously we have that opening where Dick is like, yo, like I was left in these woods by Bruce. And it's kind of like the whole conversation of someone saying like, oh, Bruce is a psychopath. You don't want to let what he did to you happen to someone else. Because obviously Dick still, he's in a process of figuring out his relationship with Bruce. Like, there's just a lot of complications of who he became because of Bruce and kind of in spite of Bruce. And obviously we see that kind of happen with Jason, that he wasn't the best influence on Jason in certain regards. It kind of reined him in and may have even caused more damage, kind of like he did with Dick. But I'm curious who he was talking to, because I think I have to go back. I think we met Alfred last season. I think I definitely have to rewatch season 2. It's been a while, so I don't know if that was Alfred. Kind of like because Alfred wouldn't talk like that, so that has to be someone else talking. I don't know who. But then obviously we get the scene of like Jason getting crowbarred, but then later on we see Bruce with the crowbar. So either like he got revenge, is either that's what that's about, of like, you know, it might be a thing of like, nah, he crossed the line and he killed the Joker, and he's like, that's why I need you to be a better Batman, you know, because that was also the thing of like, right, that was the thing they were kind of setting up, of him being like, you need to become Batman. And obviously, you know, Dick found his own wings, you know, went from no longer being Robin to being Nightwing now, right? So that's an interesting development. Obviously we, you know, meet Barbara, and obviously she's commissioner, and I love that whole conversation of like, right, like trying to like feel the shoes of your father, and he's like, right, Commissioner Gordon is like, right, you're literally doing the exact same thing. But maybe that's why she's saying that, because she's having the struggles, because this is her being Oracle. So she's probably already been Oracle and stopped being Oracle, considering she's being a cop, but maybe that's like her day job. I don't know if I guess I just never really thought about what her day job as Oracle was, you know, so I don't know if she's even doing the superhero thing anymore, like I said, even as Oracle. Maybe she's just working straight up as a cop. I think it is interesting. I mean, it makes sense, their line of work, that they would go off and become detectives in their own right. Dick did. Obviously, he's kind of left that behind to a certain extent. He hasn't really done like a full-blown just being Dick Grayson detective since like season 1. But then, like, you know, Barbara doing it, it's like that's the only line of work, because like what's inside of them and what they've gone through being part of the Bat family, like there's no, like, you can't shut that off, so you just got to find a different outlet for it to a certain extent. Some other interesting aspects about this trailer is, first and foremost, I knew that Scarecrow would be a part of this. I thought he'd be kind of like the main overarching thing, but it seems like the Red Hood stuff is. But it's interesting because they have him kind of serving what I'd assume is kind of almost like a Calendar Man aspect of, like, he's a consultant, which is kind of interesting that Barbara would go to him. It's like, right, we've worked with him. It's like, why would you? I was like, okay, that's interesting. Like, we're talking like what, like top tier Gotham villain Scarecrow. Like, okay, why are you allowing that to happen? Okay. I wonder, does he know their identities? Because obviously it depends on different continuities what villains do and don't know the identities of the Bat family and everything. So I wonder, does he know? Like, maybe Dick and him have crossed paths on like a more like police level, or maybe he is aware that like, oh, you were the former Boy Wonder and everything. But part of me wonders, is that going to be the issue where like he pulls, you know, because I mean, it's not like just Calendar Man plays that role, but it reminds me, it makes me think of, I'm not well versed in the story, but I know like that's kind of a role that Calendar Man plays during the Long Halloween storyline. So I wonder if they're kind of doing a similar thing in this regard, but using Scarecrow instead. Obviously a little different, because I mean, I'm not well versed in the Red Hood storyline, so I don't know if this is them just doing a lot of their own thing, or are they pulling from it in certain regards. But I think it's interesting because I feel like this is, you know, like I said, a Hannibal Lecter setup of just like him getting out, running amok as Scarecrow, because like while you were so focused on him helping you do all this and figure everything out, he's plotting everything and kind of his return to villainy, you know. We'll see what that ends up being the case. And speaking of villains really quickly, there's also Gizmo. I believe that's his name. He's a Teen Titans villain. I thought was kind of interesting. Obviously, I know him from the cartoon because he's kind of like a child. He's with part of Hive, which makes me think, like, are we going to get any other Hive villains that pop up? But part of me was like, I'm curious, is that just a thing? Like, does he look like that in the comics? Like the more baby form he has, like the more like baby like toddler form that he has in the Teen Titans show, even Teen Titans Go, or is that just like because they are Teen Titans in that, but they're full-grown adults, so maybe they're leaning towards that. I mean, literally last season we got Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke, and Dr. Light. So like, you know, so of course we're gonna sprinkle in some more villains. Like I brought up earlier, I'm not well versed in the Red Hood storyline, so I don't know, but based on what we saw in the trailer, at one point it seemed like there was a girl who put up a Red Hood, so I'm like, I don't think Red Hood's the only one. I think because Gotham is that type of city where like, oh, people kind of not, you know, will kind of get behind you both hero and villain wise, and so him being the rogue vigilante of like, oh, I'm cleaning this city up, I'm killing like bad guys, you're a bad guy in this city, you're as good as dead. Obviously Nightwing and the Titans are going to be dealing with a lot of crime because it's like, right, we can't cross that line, like we've already been down that territory, and you know, Dick has struggled with that in the past, and he's trying to like be on a better path. And so Red Hood running amok like this, in particular because it seems like he's potentially inspiring other people. Now, whether he's just intentionally creating his own Red Hood gang, or whether it's just people inspired by him, these are people like fed up with Gotham being what it is, and these might be people who are very similar to Jason in that regard of like, right, we live on the street, we kind of have no one, and we want some justice in this city. Or maybe they're going to use that as an excuse, kind of like Jason did. He used being Robin as an excuse to kind of like do whatever he wants. So maybe they're kind of doing the same thing. So maybe they're not all about justice, but you know, maybe that's what the Red Hood symbol is all about in its own right. There's everything with Corey, and I'm curious because at one point she's like, whoa, I feel like I'm losing my mind. I'm wondering, is that related to anything Scarecrow-wise, like fear toxin, or is this like, nah, like that's just something else? Because obviously we see Black Star at one point in time, so there's going to be a confrontation between that. I mean, well, to be fair, we already know she's on Earth. We even get to see Raven for a little bit. She was wearing a white suit, which I'm like, okay, so maybe like that part of her story's happened where she's kind of like shifted over like her arc and where she is, because the last time we saw her she was going to Themyscira with Donna's body, so who knows, that might not be a full season thing. That might be something that's either brought up like a little bit throughout the season, or maybe it's something that gets brought up at like the tail end of the season. So you know, since I'm sitting here thinking about the whole Bruce thing, I think it's interesting because Bruce in Batwoman has disappeared for 3 years, and I'm curious, is Bruce in this continuity going to kind of do the same thing? Because it's like, right, I failed Jason, I failed every Robin, I failed everyone, because Barbara's in the situation she's in because of the Joker. I don't know if they're going to change it for this continuity, but he's the reason, because he shot her in the back and paralyzed her, so there's that. Him being the one that also killed Jason, you know, so like I said, I believed it was supposed to represent like him killing the Joker, and like, you know, now he's crossed the line, he can never go back, like he broke his code, you know, because, and now it's like all these children of mine are broken because of me, and I failed, so how can I be Batman? Be a better Batman, don't make the mistakes I made, type of thing. Obviously these are just some of my thoughts. I'd love to get to know some of yours in the comments down below. What are some things you want to see from this season? What are some things you expect to see from this season? Let me know. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and good